Doom. The Dark Ages got some new gameplay footage. I'll be breakdown of some leaked details from trailer. This is all coming from a private QuakeCon 2024 showcase, so keep in mind that these are still just alpha build, but they're sounding pretty exciting. There was an Nvidia gameplay was shown, which looks like little awkward for me. There is also the Doom guy's eyes glowing yellow. Here indicates someone is controlling him. In this prequel, we are not sure about that. There was rumors about the game. Release date leaked, which is on May 15th, 2025. Although we can't say this is legit, because the developers can easily delay the game anytime they want, right? So, let's dive into what we know so far. First, let's talk about Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, the modern era of Doom. 2016 brought back that raw, fast-paced action we all craved, with a fresh feel. Then Eternal dropped, and it took everything to a whole new level. Bigger weapons, faster movement, more intense combat, and an expanded story that kept us hooked. The combat system is tight, the levels are brutal, and if you're a fan of intense action, nothing beats the feeling of unloading a shotgun into a demon horde. But let's not forget the classics. Doom 1, Doom 2, and Doom 3 are still legends, and the modding community is absolutely killing it. These old-school titles have become endless playgrounds thanks to mods. You can turn Doom into anything, sci-fi, horror, or even blend it with other iconic franchises. Mods have kept these games alive and thriving, giving us brand new experiences with that classic Doom flair. The community really knows how to keep the fun rolling.
The only thing they fear is you.
Now, coming back to Doom. The Dark Ages? If you've played Doom Eternal, you're probably familiar with its fast-paced, frenetic combat, where speed and agility are key. However, the latest entry in the Doom franchise takes a different approach, slowing things down and focusing more on grounded combat, much like the original Doom from 1993. The biggest change is the overall pace. Unlike Doom Eternal, which had players constantly on the move with wall jumps and dash mechanics, the new Doom title offers a more methodical pace. Players spend more time on the ground, carefully positioning themselves, choosing when to attack or retreat, and focusing on the nuances of combat. This shift in gameplay is often compared to the original Doom. Back in 1993, combat was grounded and straightforward. You had to learn enemy patterns, manage limited resources, and move with purpose. The combat was intense but wasn't about constant motion. Timing and strategy were the real focus. In this new entry, this slower, more deliberate pace allows players to engage with the world and its enemies in a similar way. You're not always sprinting from one encounter to the next. Instead, you're forced to consider your environment, manage your arsenal of weapons, and engage in tactical battles on solid ground. Most of the action takes place on the ground, where you'll face off against enemies that come at you from all directions. It's a return to the basics. No complicated acrobatics, no constant speed boosts, just pure, grounded firefights. This gives players a chance to really feel the weight and power of each weapon, with every shot feeling impactful.
All the power of hell, coming before one man.
Engines online.
Doom. The Dark Ages isn't your typical Doom game anymore. It is not a sequel to Doom Eternal. It is a prequel between the Doom 2016 and with Doom Eternal series. According to reports from anonymous Discord user and anonymous YouTuber, let's keep them anonymous, they were able to catch a private gameplay showcase narrated by none other than Hugo Martin, the game's creative director. But here's the catch. It was an alpha build of the game, so this is very early stuff we're talking about. The showcase was pre-recorded, and while the footage shown was raw gameplay, we also got some extended sequences from the announcement trailer. So imagine a mix of unfinished footage, but enough to get a feel for the game. One of the biggest takeaways is that the game will have much larger, more open areas than we've seen before in Doom. Now, the franchise has always been known for fast, intense combat in relatively linear environments, but the Dark Ages seems to be shifting gears. These new areas could open up a whole new dynamic for exploration and combat. So, while it's still Doom, big guns, demons, and carnage, the gameplay seems to be leaning towards something a bit more expansive, with a focus on traversal and environmental interaction. Now, let's talk about some of the new mechanics. There are 3 new melee weapons confirmed, and they sound like they'll mix things up in a huge way. First, we've got a flail, a classic weapon with a twist. The cool part? You can actually use it to collect ammunition as you strike enemies. That's right, you're swinging that thing around, and it's bringing in more firepower. Next, we've got a mace. Simple, brutal, and effective. Just what you want in Doom. And lastly, a fist that creates chains of electricity between enemies. Think about that. Being able to zap multiple demons at once? That's going to be a game changer for crowd control. But the real standout of these new weapons has to be the saw shield. Not only does it look like it's going to be crucial for navigating the map, but it can also be used as a deadly projectile. You can throw it at enemies, and get this, it'll actually tear through their flesh. And then, you can just grab it back and do it all over again. It's like a mix of mobility and sheer carnage, all wrapped into one weapon. Sounds like it's going to be the kind of weapon that will change the rhythm of combat in some crazy ways. Another new mechanic that's making waves is the ability to reflect green projectiles back at enemies. This could add a lot more tactical depth to combat. Imagine dodging a projectile, then sending it right back at the demon who fired it. It's going to make combat feel even more dynamic and strategic. So, while we still don't have a ton of official information on Doom: The Dark Ages, these leaks are giving us some pretty exciting hints about what's to come. Larger, more open areas, new melee weapons, a game-changing saw shield, and even some reflection mechanics. It all points to a more dynamic and expansive Doom experience. Now, in this section, I'm going to talk about both Doom comparison breakdown. I'm going to split this into 2 sections of the iconic franchise, Doom Eternal and Doom: The Dark Ages. These 2 games might share the same Doom name, but they represent 2 distinct eras in gaming. So, what makes them so different? Doom Eternal, 2020, is the latest entry in the mainline Doom series, developed by ID Software. It's a fast-paced, action-packed first-person shooter that continues the story of the Doomslayer fighting against demonic forces across various worlds and dimensions. On the other hand, Doom: The Dark Ages that was never officially part of the series, and it takes a very different approach, combining the traditional Doom gameplay with medieval dark fantasy elements. Doom Eternal is known for its incredibly fluid and intense combat mechanics. The game introduces mechanics like the dash, the grappling hook, and the chainsaw for resource management, alongside the powerful arsenal of weapons. It's all about maintaining the flow of combat. You have to constantly move, switch between weapons, and use your environment to your advantage. The challenge is keeping up the pace and chaining together kills as you face wave after wave of demons. Doom: Dark Ages, however, takes a different approach. This game infuses the traditional Doom combat with a more methodical, slower-paced style, blending in swords, bows, and magic to give it a fantasy spin. While the gunplay is still there, the focus shifts to more strategic fights, as you rely on your melee weapons and magical abilities to deal with the more methodical approach of the enemies. On the other hand, Doom Eternal has a high-energy, adrenaline-fueled atmosphere. It's designed to keep you at the edge of your seat, blasting through demons in increasingly chaotic battles, all while exploring the rich lore behind the Doomslayer. The Dark Ages, by contrast, leans more into a dark Gothic atmosphere with moments of eerie tension. It's less about the high-speed action and more about the creepy ambiance and slower combat of the medieval setting. In summary, Doom Eternal and Doom the Dark Ages might share a name, but they're worlds apart. One is a high-tech, fast-paced shooter pushing the limits of modern gaming, while the other is a retro-inspired, fan-made experience that blends Doom gameplay with dark fantasy. As always, thank you for watching. See you guys on the next one. Peace out.